From the agenda of the last board, I choose to point out 3 key points which are here. First, what is about the procedure for the new call? What is the procedure for the nomination of affiliated partners? And finally, what about the integration of ERN networks into the national health systems? And at the end of my presentation, perhaps discuss about some issues that need to be further discussed together. First of all, what about the process for the new HCP to join existing ERN? What is the job of each network, in fact? Each network should first update their specific selection criteria that were prepared by each one in last year. 2, prepare, it's very important, a mapping document assessing the geographical, scientific, and clinical gaps for each network. And finally, to define the network development needs in types of competences, number, territorial wish for full geographical coverage, etc. So, update, mapping, identify gaps, and identifies needs. It's the challenges for the next call. This procedure divided in 3 steps. First steps concerns the pre-assessment of the application by each ERN with a production of an advisory opinion. Just a minute for this first step, because this step is not the end of the procedure if no favorable process is done. And it's a point that we discussed during the meeting, because the originally proposition was to stop the procedure if no favorable process was done by each ERN. So we have to wait for the official minutes of the meeting, of course, to be sure that the official position of the board will be this one, but it was the discussion. Second step concerns the validation by member states according to a procedure, a classical procedure for official endorsement, as we have known it for the first call. And the third step concerns the designation by European Commission, according to 3 levels: eligibility checking for the application by European Commission, then technical assessment by independent assessment body, as for the first call, and finally, the ERN board's approval. So I want to point out perhaps 2 specific issues discussed during the meeting. The board is judge in case of conflict between step 1 and 2. It's a possibility, of course, and the proposition of the board is, the proposition of the board is to be judged in case of conflict. And second specific issue is that at this stage, the call not open for affiliated partners. During our meeting, it was very interesting to analyze the position paper prepared by the ERN coordinators group, and the key points of this paper, this position paper, are priority for countries where ERN not currently represented. It's the most important point. Need to currently update the minimum set of criteria in each ERN. And finally, need to harmonize the minimum set of criteria between all ERN in order to precise what is a center of excellence. On this last point, I have a problem, but it's not very important. But I don't see, and I'm not sure that the board really sees what is a center of excellence in the general organization of the network. So perhaps it will be necessary to precise this definition. It was also interesting because Eurodis prepared a position about this call, and the 2 points that you have here are very important for me, and I hope for the board. First of all, need of a stepwise and focused approach in the procedure of HEP call, opened restricted call for new members could easily turn into the failure of ERN. So it's a warning from Eurodis. And then need to work closely between member states and network coordinators to have an equitable coverage of all member states in all ERN, to take into account and respect the national networks of rare disease, and finally, to redefine criteria and conditions for expertise in order to provide the assurance and of robustness and quality of the networks. I think that this Eurodis position may be discussed together, because the first point is very important. Next, thank you. So, the second key points discussed during the meeting of the board was related to affiliated partners and the precision on procedure for their nomination. The working group of the board presented a draft position. And first of all, a definition of the 2 types of affiliated partners which are adopted by the board. First, associated national centers as clinics, hospitals, laboratories, etc., with specific criteria to an area of expertise. And second type of affiliated partners was national coordination hubs, I mean ministries or equivalent structures, with a role in coordination, information, etc. In this draft position of the working group, there was one priority for affiliated partners with no full member in a given ERN. And finally, a discussion around a sensitive point, which concerns the reasons for termination of the affiliation. There are a lot of reasons for termination of affiliation, for instance, voluntary withdrawal. But there is one case which is sensitive. It's the case of the integration into an ERN for a full member from the member states of origin of the affiliated partner. And in this case, the new full member will represent the new focal point of the member state, and the affiliated status is over. The board, except perhaps Austria, was okay with this position, but there was a discussion. So, France, given this discussion, France requested that the ERN coordinator group be consulted on the process for affiliated partners, which was not foreseen, in fact. So this group, the coordinator group, will receive a new version of a draft at the end of November, including the comments of the board. And as for the ERN call, it is expected a position paper of the ERN coordinator group, which will be presented by the chief of this group for the next board on December. And, final decision concerning the procedure of affiliated partners will be taken in December. So, the conclusion is that the call for affiliated partners is delayed. Third key points discussed during the meeting concern the integration of ERN into the national health systems and referral of patients to the ERN. You remember that you have replied to a survey in last November about this topic, and we have discussed from your answers, we have discussed some issues as how to harmonize legal frameworks on ERN procedure, how to give legitimacy to ERN, who gives the endorsement for an ERN. In France, it's the Ministry of Health, of course, but it's not the case in every member state. So this question will be discussed. For instance, also, how does a patient is referred to an ERN, and does a general practitioner have the capacity to refer to ERN, and some question of this type. So it was decided that a working group will be created in order to exchange of national practice and find some European solution, perhaps. So 4 coordinators of ERN will be mandated on a voluntary basis. I'm conclude by some points to be clarified from our point of view. Concerning the HCP call, is there a risk, or perhaps not, of having different set of criteria between ERN for the pre-assessment step? It is a question for France, but perhaps for other member states, or it is interesting to discuss with you of this question. For France, but I think it's a general issue, it's necessary to connect the new HCP call procedure with the French, for France, with the French endorsement for the new national reference centers. We were certified in last August, but the question is the same perhaps for other member states. There is a need to clarify and improve the coordination between board, ERN coordination group, and the opinion of each ERN. Because why this point? Because during the meeting, it will be a little bit difficult. Anna, perhaps you can give your opinion to get that the coordinator group will be consulted about affiliated partners. And I think it's very, very important that you can produce an official paper from from this group towards the board. And finally, there is a need to precise the referral of patients to the ERN. I mean the care pathway, not the same pathway that you discussed during the morning, but there is a real need to precise the referral of patients to ERN, because it is the objective of the ERN network. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.